When a prominent figure faces a credible accusation, the community reacts with an immediate and often justified demand for accountability. But almost immediately, the focus begins to drift. The collective gaze shifts away from the accused and pivots toward their friends, colleagues, or associates who have remained silent. Intense pressure is applied to these bystanders. Digital spaces fill with demands for public statements, while big brothers or public figures are harassed simply for not speaking up fast enough. This network map illustrates how a community begins to value structural proximity over individual action. This is often the result of misapplying ideological purity tests, like the concept of wala and bara, to demand that everyone either explicitly denounce the target or be labeled as part of the problem. This creates a central paradox. In the rush to enforce total loyalty through a chain boycott, the movement creates a massive tactical diversion, one that risks letting the actual perpetrator fade into the background, while the mob chases everyone else. Human nature isn't a light switch. When we've known someone for a long time and seen them be honest and helpful, it is natural to grant them the benefit of the doubt, even when the news is shocking. Processing a friend's betrayal takes time. Disbelief, confusion, and temporary silence are standard human trauma responses. They aren't the same thing as supporting a crime. We confuse two different systems. Legal justice relies on evidence and due process. Social justice is decentralized, driven by public opinion and social pressure. Digital communities are floating entities. They lack investigators, courtrooms, or authority to force a trial. Because the crowd has no institutional power over the actual abuser, the frustration becomes unbearable. To vent that anger, they turn toward the only people they can actually reach, the silent friends who are still part of the social circle. Ultimately, attacking these associates is less about strategy and more about filling an authority vacuum with the only weapon the crowd has: misplaced anger. When we look at the data, the chain boycott reveals itself not as a moral victory, but as a mathematical failure. The failure begins when the movement labels anyone who asks for evidence or stays quiet as an accomplice. The movement starts treating potential allies as enemies. The consequence is immediate. This hostility pushes neutral bystanders away, alienating the very people whose support is needed to build momentum. By systematically cutting ties with anyone who isn't 100% in, the movement's own circle of influence begins to contract. They are trading broad impact for a tiny, isolated echo chamber. But here is the most damaging part. Those alienated neutrals are often driven toward the other side, inadvertently strengthening the very group the movement was trying to dismantle. In the end, the chain boycott is strategically self-destructive. It drains the strength of the accusers while making the actual abusers feel safer and more powerful. The harsh reality is that powerful perpetrators often ignore online outrage. If they don't recognize the community's authority, your demands won't move them. When individuals are backed by state structures or significant wealth, they are insulated from social pressure. Public demands for their submission usually result in zero change. This is why the chain boycott is so damaging. By wasting finite energy bullying innocent bystanders, the movement dilutes its own credibility and creates a toxic social environment that loses sight of its original ideals. Effective social justice requires precision. We need a focused aim, not a wide blast radius that treats everyone as collateral damage. The strategic approach is to focus entirely on the actual abuser, establish the evidence, build the argument, and maintain social boycotts strictly against those who are proven guilty. To win the fight against real injustice, a movement must stop tearing down the people on the sidelines and keep its focus locked strictly on the true target.